All my companies are a result of actually spending a year here in Boston 12 years ago. I was fortunate to go to the Kennedy School, get a master's in public administration, a mid-career master's. That's what you do when you're 31, it's like the middle of your career. When I came back to Israel, I was still a government employee, and the first thing I did was basically being an entrepreneur inside the government. I started a government agency that no one wanted, and had to go and fundraise for it, both for the political resources and the monetary resources the government would give you, which is this agency, which was on the shelf for many, many years, was called back then the Economic Development Agency for the, well, basically Arab communities of Israel. So no one, these are Israeli citizens who are part of the country, who are, you know, at least on paper.
They're forgotten.
They're forgotten, but they're still, you know, on paper they have the same rights as everyone else.
Right.
And economically,
it's a large population.
It's a fifth of the population, and you know how Israel's economy is doing very well. They're not participating. So their GDP per capita is about $12,000, where Israelis were about like high 20s. It's higher now, but so this is the first kind of entrepreneurship that I did. I did it for about a year. I was the founding director, and then I wanted to take whatever innovation I could learn about while I was here at the Kennedy School and while I was working my years of government, and kind of bring that knowledge to the private sector and help public and private organizations. With a charter course, I think find their purpose. I think that's the biggest part of your business plan, is finding the purpose of what you do, getting excited about it. You know, I'm sure you didn't have a lot of people here sitting in your studio saying, I did it for the money, right? They did it for the interest, they did it because they wanted to accomplish something, they wanted to prove something to themselves. If they were really honest, they would say, because I was jealous of someone and I wanted to be better.
It's also amazing how many entrepreneurs just fall into it. You know, happenstance. I was at a party, I met somebody.
Right, but you need, so the happenstance exists almost, I think, in every great entrepreneurship, but the drive is there. It's people with a lot of energy and a lot of focus, they just need to find that spot, and that could be happenstance, definitely. So I joined up with another friend who's a graduate of the National Security Council in Israel, and we started, we wanted to be a niche consulting firm, but in Israel it just doesn't work like that, because you have to do a lot of stuff just to get by, just to build a business, build a clientele. So we did everything from business development. We had a huge advantage because I sort of understood the American side of it, and my friend was very familiar with the domestic market. So we took a lot of, we still do to some degree, take Israeli technologies and companies, not necessarily fully ripe technologies. People are still working on their technologies before they actually have a product or service. Yes,
conceptual.
And introduce them to a growing network of investors and mainly partners on the strategic level, sort of people who can walk hand in hand with you. It was one of the biggest law firms that we worked with that had an office in Tel Aviv, and they basically said, well, we have an office in Tel Aviv. It's very expensive. We pay our lawyers a lot of money to go and relocate there. People do it happily, but it's a big expense. And so, like, how do we get more clients? How do we get people more clients in the door? I said, well, we work with Virginia, with the governor's office, and we picked a niche, which was cybersecurity, homeland security technology, and we organized a visit. People paid their own way. The governor of Virginia, who was very, very anxious to get businesses over there, we framed it as, we're not relocating, we're expanding, because for Israelis, and this has to be true for Boston as well, the Israeli government, the Israeli institutions don't want companies relocating. They want to expand. They don't
want the brain drain, right?
They want a brain drain. They don't want the money drain. They want to keep the taxes, at least to some degree. They want to keep some of them with jobs, you know. So we advocated expansion of businesses, and a few states around the Commonwealth of Virginia wanted to bring these company over. We interviewed about 50. So you're sitting in a room for 3 days, and we've sort of sent out this Google form. People signed up. A ton of companies, fantastic stuff that you won't get to see. So this is like The Voice, right? We were standing, and there were about 10 selected, but we saw about 30, I would say, to 45 companies in those 3 days. They each had just a few minutes to show what they're doing. And it was a win-win because we were sitting in the nice offices of that law firm in Tel Aviv. They got to pitch their services, regardless if they went on the trip or not, for about 45 companies. And we got to work with the government of Virginia, and those people went to Virginia. Some of them actually ended up expanding and relocating some of their staff. So what kind of a consulting firm is that? I don't know. It's usually we used to identify something that was valuable, that was sort of on the crossroads between public and private, and stuff that we love doing because we left the government, which was me and my partner love being in government. But it gives you more ability to work or not to work with certain people in certain projects. Today, we've sort of wanted down a bit of the, I would say the business development part because, I had an intense career. This is more of a business, less of a business pitch and more of a personal confession. I worked very hard in my 20s and 30s, and I wanted to spend time with my family. So when we came here, because my wife got into school and wanted to study here, I said, I'm going to wind it down. I'm going to take 1 or 2 projects that I can do myself. I still hire a few people ad hoc, but basically relocated to Boston from Tel Aviv. And I could say, if you ask me what I did for the last few years, I was a very good dad. I still hope I am. And I did a very interesting project, which sort of kept me connected to what it was, the work that we did before. We created, we took social entrepreneurs. I don't know if you've ever had social entrepreneurs here on the show. It's a fascinating field that's growing. These are not people who are nonprofits. These people who want to have a business plan and a business justification to running an organization that has social outputs of every kind you can think of it. And Boston, in a sense, is the place where it all started. The theorizing of it started at Harvard Business School and then grew into MIT. We had an interesting angle to that. We took Egyptians, Israelis, and Turks, and we created a program for them with Harvard and MIT. The Social Enterprise Initiative with the Center for Public Leadership at Harvard Kennedy School, with MIT's MISTI, it's a Middle East
Studies.
Science and Technology.
Okay.
But they have a whole branch that has to do with the Middle East. We brought, we've already had 3 classes. It was sort of every other year, which was incredible because you see Israeli, Turks, and Egyptians who have so many things separating them, but so many things that bring them together. Beginning from
so many commonalities.
Exactly. If you think about it, these were people in the same generation. These were all mainly millennials who speak a language that I can't say that I fully understand because I'm pre-millennial, just a little bit, but it's enough for the language gap. These people went out on the streets between 2011 and 2013 and demonstrated against their own governments for the same reasons. Now, the amazing things about all these 3 revolutions, like Tahrir Square, Rothschild in Tel Aviv, and what happens in Ghazi Park and in Istanbul, is that none of it transformed into political energy. It all transformed into
social energy.
Social energy, which these really brilliant, sophisticated people wanted to turn into businesses. So how do we take all that's good about Boston and all the great institutions that this city has and give it to people who would never come here, would never be here, would never enjoy the wealth of knowledge and understanding. We were hosted by a gentleman who runs Daily Table, which is, if you remember these are the people who started both Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, and they created this supermarket that has the ability to sell great products, fresh products at very low prices. What's called the food oasis. So we brought them there, and we brought them to Tom Eisenman, and we built something that wouldn't happen any other way. It wouldn't happen through executive education, which cost $10,000 a week. These people did not pay to come here; they only paid their way.
So this was a real immersion and a very hands-on look at how social entrepreneurs have created their businesses and
it was
run their businesses.
Yeah, and it was lucrative for the company. It was worth our time to do it. We were able to find a great sponsor for it. And it was one of those things that if I had more time, I would do 10 of these a year in different areas and bring a lot of people who can't come to Boston the regular ways, like getting an MBA or coming here for school for other reasons. So it's it was between kids, and it fit perfectly. But what I'm working right now, which is still, it still has one line of code has been written. But it's basically, the biggest advice that I give to some people, and this is not my advice, this has been written in many, many books for entrepreneurship and innovation, is doing something that you're familiar with and that you love. If you just see an opportunity and you're not really into it or haven't had knowledge, you can learn, but you'll never, I think, have the motivation, especially when things get tough, to keep going.
So you say passion gets you through tough times.
Well, exactly, and it gets you, and I think it gets you through, it gets you closer to success. So I've done a lot of public speaking, not sort of the major kind, I'm not I belong to any select, and also
Targeted.
when it was, it started from synagogues and went on to churches and went on to schools and smaller forums and all kinds of business firms. But I realized that a lot of people like me who don't want to stop everything that they're doing and become public speakers. None of us is going to be Tony Robbins, and no one's going to be just sort of at the higher end of it. Or people who are, former leaders who get paid $100,000, $250,000 to come speak for 45 minutes. But people like maybe people in this room or entrepreneurs are coming who need a way to get out there because they want to, because they'd like to, because others would like to, but they don't have the right context. How do I advertise myself to come and give 45 minutes at a small startup? How do I come and speak to a group of people at a high school? Business sort of people who take a business course in high school or in college. And there's no way to find them, there's no way to pay for them, there's no way to get them somewhere. So I wanted to basically simplify it and sell the spoken word. So you can do it online, there's a lot of companies who do that online. You can hire a lot of people to come and appear on your screen. But I still haven't found a way to replace what we have right now. We're sitting right in front of each other, we're getting each other's energy, we're looking each other in the eyes. You can come and ask me stuff there when the microphone's off, and things you couldn't ask me on record. And I think that Boston is a place to start it. So this has been in the works for about a year. Our business plan is ready. We've had one attempt to build the technology. We've looked at past failures. 5 years ago, there was a company trying to do something very, very similar, attached to conferences, help conferences basically book their speakers.
Okay.
They just didn't have any revenue. But the thing is, when you're looking at 5 or 6 years ago, revenue was a big deal. Now it's how much user traffic you have, because that brings a lot of other stuff. So we believe we have a path forward. At this point, I'm reviewing a few people who I want to basically be co-founders, who have a great technological edge. I prefer it to be a woman, because I think that I think if we have a woman leading the technological team, I think it would, when we pitch the company to users, I think that women are going to be the first
adopters,
because I think that they don't have as many opportunities to become public speakers. I think it's still, even in this day and age, I think that that's going to be a huge advantage. We first thought saying, well, let's just do women, but we're in Boston. There's a lot of these, PhD students who take the most boring thing, theology, right? There's a church out there, 40 miles outside of Boston, who wants to hear this PhD in theology, who wants to hear something, but they don't know it exists.
There's no mechanism.
There's no mechanism. So we partnered with Uber basically when you would go into our app, everything would be set up after they found you, and this will have to be a growing sort of menu.
So sort of turnkey speaking for niche.
And it could be everything.
Topics,
it could be everything. We're not going to be setting the price. The speakers are going to be setting the price. We have some guidelines. We would have a lot of stuff that sort of we would add on, how to speak.
So to use a model that's out there, kind of like a Thumbtack or something like that.
It's the closest thing is the Airbnb, basically.
Okay.
You find it. They work everything for you. They make the connection. You coordinate.
And you're the facilitator.
And you show up. Yeah.
You provide the platform.
Yeah. And there'll be a premium level where you can actually have someone on the phone, solving problems, and but all your expenses, all your payments are all going to be through the system. So if you've ever given a lecture and you were flown somewhere, just, dealing with,
The
I've sent you
logistics of
this
it,
and
right.
I've said this, and it takes months to finalize, you get paid after a long time, and people want to do it once a month. Are not doing it because it's a headache, it's a big deal. So this is what's on the
horizon.
table right now, yes.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to have you back and hear more about it as it evolves, and fascinating stuff. Obviously, as you said, we can talk for hours about the various
Well, thank you
topics.
so much.
It's been a pleasure. Oren Magnezy of Laurus Consulting Group. That's the entity, at least the parent company right now. If people want to get in touch with you, and we have speakers out there that want to learn more about what you're doing and
Absolutely.
sign up to be a part of the
Yeah.
forum, how do they get in touch with
The
you?
beta users, well, through my email, it's Oren, O-R-E-N, at the Laurus, THELAURUS.com. And shoot me an email. I'd love to chat to see, if you wanted to start being a beta user for us. And it could be anything. It could be any kind of speaking that you think someone out there wants to listen to.
Which runs the gamut.
And you don't have to have all the
subject matter expertise. You have to be
right.
passionate about it.
You just have to
and
be passionate about what you want to talk about.
Excellent. We'll be right back on with another guest on Radio Entrepreneurs. Our last guest in the studio has been Oren Magnezy, founder and CEO of Laurus Consulting Group. And we'll be right back on Radio Entrepreneurs.